Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. US acknowledges it has secretly shipped significant number of long-range missiles to Ukraine in recent weeks, and Ukraine has now used them twice. Israel says it is moving ahead with its planned military operation in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. UN Gaza aid envoy calls on Israel to take swifter action to allow a sustained flow of assistance into the Gaza Strip. A grand jury charges 18 people with allegedly taking part in an Arizona fake elector scheme to re-elect the then US President Donald Trump in 2020. Papers list a former US President Trump as an unindicted co-conspirator. Arizona's fight over 1864 abortion ban continues. Lawmakers in State House of Representatives vote to repeal the ban. State Senate needs to pass it within weeks to complete the process. Last stage for filing of nominations for constituencies in Phase 4 of India's general elections. India all set to vote in the second phase of polls on Friday. 88 of the 543 seats to India's lower house of parliament will go to polls on April 26th. As the Russia-Ukraine conflict continues, US claims that Ukraine sustained its offensive against Russia with uninterrupted support of secretly shipped missiles. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan confirmed that significant number of long-range missiles were recently shipped to Ukraine and that it has now used them twice against Russia. Adding further, he said that US will send more of it for Ukraine. The Pentagon initially opposed the long-range missile deployment, fearing the loss of missiles from the country's stockpile, which would hurt US military readiness.
I'm able to confirm, as you've heard from others, that in February, the President directed his team to provide Ukraine with a significant number of ATACMS missiles for use inside Ukraine's sovereign territory. That shipment started moving in March as part of the PDA that the President authorized on March 12th. And those missiles have arrived in Ukraine. We will send more now that we have additional both authority and money.
US President Joe Biden signed a $95 billion war aid measure with assistance for Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan after a months-long Republican battle. The bill signed into law on Wednesday includes $61 billion in aid to Ukraine, $26 billion for Israel, as well as $1 billion in humanitarian assistance to Gaza and $8 billion to counter China's military might. Biden's announcement marks an end to the long 6-month battle with Republicans in Congress over urgently needed assistance for Ukraine. This month, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky approved a new mobilization law with an aim to replenish the country's exhausted and depleted troops after more than 2 years of war against Russia. But because Ukrainian soldiers are vastly outnumbered by Russian forces on the front lines, it is looking like those who have been fighting since the start of the conflict will have to remain on the battlefield. Megumi Lim gets us more.
Military recruitment ads have become ubiquitous in Ukraine. Some look like movie posters, hoping they will attract more people to join the fight. Before Ukraine's parliament passed the new mobilization law on April 11th, an army general gave lawmakers a sobering report. Ukraine's troops were outnumbered 7 to 10 times on the eastern front lines.
I ask you, pass this law. We need it badly. We need it very much. Our defences are on their last breath.
The decision to pass the final bill was not an easy one. More than 4,000 amendments were made during months of debate. President Zelensky signed the bill on April 16th, and the law will come into effect within a month from then. It will require men aged 18 to 60 to register their personal information with military authorities, so those who are eligible can be called up to fight. Those living abroad who fail to do so may be denied certain consular services, and for those evading the draft, they'll now have to face a fine. For many, the hope was that the mobilization law would also include provisions to demobilize soldiers who have been fighting since the start of the full-scale invasion. But with Ukrainian troops outmanned and outgunned on the battlefield, service limits were dropped completely.
Now almost everyone has an acquaintance, a friend or a relative who's on the front lines, and everyone knows that most of the people who are there now have been there for too long, without rest, without vacations, without anything.
Experts say rotating troops out now would be detrimental to the fight.
Because if we have a tough situation on the battlefield and we need more and more brigades, and of course with some experience. Because can you imagine that if you change the 80% of the experienced soldiers and officers, they go home, and after this arrive the new guys, it will be disaster actually.
The coming months will be crucial for Ukraine. Russian forces are expected to mount a major offensive in the late spring or summer. And Kyiv will need to muster as many people and resources as possible to hold the front line. Megumi Lim in Kyiv reporting for DD India.
As Israel-Hamas conflict continues, Israeli troops are moving ahead with its planned military operation in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. The army is prepared to remove civilians from the conflict-struck region, though Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government gave no timeline. Earlier, Israeli warplanes attacked the northern Gaza Strip for a second day on Wednesday. At the White House, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that Washington was still talking with Israel about Rafah, and officials from both the countries are expected to meet again in person soon.
Position has been clear on this. I've stated it from this podium. The president has spoken to it, and we've had very detailed discussions with the Israelis as recently as last week by secure video to talk through not just our concerns, but our view that there is a different way to go about dealing with the Hamas threat in Rafah and succeeding in ensuring the long-term defense and security of Israel. We are still in those conversations, and we will still continue to press our perspective.
Meanwhile, the United Nations has urged Israel for a swifter action to allow a sustained flow of assistance into the Gaza Strip. A top UN aid official on Wednesday said that Israel should take further definitive and urgent steps as aid workers needed safe access to and throughout Gaza. Israel pledged nearly 3 weeks ago to improve aid access, including reopening the Erez crossing into northern Gaza and allowing the temporary use of Ashdod port in southern Israel. The volume of aid allowed to enter Gaza has increased.
At this perilous moment, President Biden has called on Israel to take a series of specific, concrete, and measurable steps to address this humanitarian crisis, protect civilians from harm, and ensure the safety of all aid workers. Israel must do more to prevent civilian casualties immediately. And President Biden has made clear that U.S. policy will be determined by our assessment of Israel's immediate and sustained action on these steps.
Meanwhile, Senior Humanitarian and Reconstruction Coordinator for Gaza announced on Wednesday that the operationalization of the UN 2720 mechanism for Gaza will start in the coming days. She added that she has informed Israel on the operationalization of the mechanism as per the resolution.
The mechanism will initially be applicable to the Cyprus and Jordan routes, respectively. Technical consultations will shortly be finalized with Egypt on this route. I've informed the government of Israel on the operationalization of the mechanism as per the resolution. The operationalization of the mechanism will allow for pipeline prioritization, predictability, visibility, and tracking of supplies to Gaza. As the resolution intended, the mechanism is designed to facilitate and support the work of all humanitarian partners on the ground.
Hamas has published a video on Wednesday showing Harsh Goldberg-Polin, an Israeli-American seized during Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel and taken into Gaza alive. Responding to the video on Wednesday, his parents urged leaders involved in ceasefire negotiations to reach a deal.
Harsh today is overwhelming. We're relieved to see him alive, but we are also concerned about his health and well-being, as well as that of all of the other hostages and all of those suffering in this region. And we're here today with a plea to all of the leaders of the parties who have been negotiating to date. That includes Qatar, Egypt, the United States, Hamas, and Israel. Be brave, lean in, seize this moment, and get a deal done to reunite all of us with our loved ones and to end the suffering in this region.
Houthi has attacked 2 American ships and an Israeli vessel on Wednesday. It was the first such attack in more than 2 weeks. Houthi said that it targeted the U.S. ship Maersk Yorktown, an American destroyer in the Gulf of Aden, and Israeli ship MSC Veracruz in the Indian Ocean. Yemen's Houthis have been attacking ships in the Red Sea region since November.
The naval forces of the Yemeni armed forces carried out a military operation targeting the American ship in the Gulf of Aden with a number of suitable naval missiles, and the hit was accurate.
Students in the U.S. walk out of lectures nationwide to protest the Gaza conflict. Speaker Mike Johnson called on the Columbia University president to resign for alleged anti-Semitism, prompting the ongoing protests. Protesters at the tent city demand action before leaving. DD India's Sally Patterson covers up the unfolding events for us.
Speaking on the steps at Columbia University, Speaker Mike Johnson had one message for Jewish students. "We are with you," he said, and anti-Semitism has no place here. The speaker said he was going to leave the campus. He said he was going to call US President Joe Biden and he was going to tell him what he'd seen. And then he said it's up to the president to take action. The speaker accused the president of the university of not taking action when it came to what he called the mob of students who have taken over the quad at Columbia University. They've been there for several days now with tents, with posters, with signs saying they will not be moved until the university listens to their demands. They are calling on it to divest and boycott Israel, boycott any companies that have any links to Israel that they say are fueling the war in Gaza. They say it's unacceptable that the university continues to have links to such companies, and they want to see in plain writing what links the university has, where its funding goes. And they said that there needs to be change now, and they're not going anywhere until those demands are met. But many Jewish students here say they don't feel safe in the face of these protests. They say some of that language that's being used, calling on Zionists to leave the campus completely, calling on Tel Aviv to be bombed, they say is threatening to them, and they say even constitutes anti-Semitism as well. So a clash of 2 different groups here at the university, Columbia, but also actually around the United States. We've seen these sorts of protests popping up from Michigan to California to Texas, with clashes between protesters and the police as well. Most of the demonstrations say that they are peaceful. They are going to continue doing what they're doing until they're heard. But the administration and many of these universities say that the safety of their students is their #1 priority. In New York, I'm Sally Patterson, reporting for DD India.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump has again claimed that the court-ordered silence in his hush money case is unconstitutional. Prosecutors accused he broke the gag rule 11 times. Judge Hua Merkin has not yet decided on the punishment. DD India's William Denslow gets us more from New York.
In a social media post, Donald Trump said the gag order against him in the hush money case was unprecedented and part of a trial that's rigged against him. It's claimed the Republican presidential frontrunner has repeated regularly during the trial. Donald Trump faces 34 felony counts of falsifying business records, tied to allegations that he paid hush money to a porn star in the lead up to the 2016 presidential election. Trump denies the charges, and on Wednesday again claimed that the legal proceedings are a political witch hunt, aimed at hurting his chances of regaining the presidency in November. Taking to Truth Social, the former president ought to accuse 2 other New York judges who presided over several of his recent civil cases of being corrupt and working for the Democrats. Court was out of session on Wednesday, but witness David Pecker is expected to be back on the stand on Thursday. The former publisher of the National Enquirer alleges that he coordinated with Donald Trump to prevent potentially politically damaging stories from hitting the headlines in the lead-up to the 2016 election. Trump's legal team say their client has committed no crimes. William Denslow in New York, reporting for DD India.
The U.S. Supreme Court is hearing arguments in a case on Thursday that could have a major impact on the next presidential election. It will consider whether Donald Trump is immune from prosecution concerning criminal election interference cases against him. DD India's Caroline Malone gets us to report on this.
Potentially pivotal moment is happening for former President Donald Trump at the Supreme Court on Thursday. That's when the top court's 9 justices will hear arguments over whether he has presidential immunity for being tried in election interference cases. Now, Trump's lawyers are likely to argue that he should have immunity over official acts that he was conducting while he was in the White House. And that's in reference to some of the events leading up to and on the day of January 6th, the Capitol attack, when mobs stormed into the Congress to try and stop the election being officially declared for Joe Biden, of course, the current president. Now, the prosecution team, being led by Special Counsel Jack Smith, says he doesn't have immunity. There is some precedence for immunity for presidents in the United States, but more related to civil cases rather than criminal. And so they argue this case should go ahead. Their wider federal criminal case against Trump can't go ahead, though, until the Supreme Court issues an opinion. Now, that might not happen until the end of June, but we could get some sense about which way the justices are leaning when we hear how they question both Trump's lawyers and the prosecution team on Thursday. And of course, the opinion and the result from the Supreme Court could have an impact on this year's November presidential election, which is a likely rematch between Biden and Trump, with voters basically deciding whether they want Trump, who could at that point have been part of a number of criminal cases, to be back in the White House, or they want the incumbent, Joe Biden. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
A grand jury has charged 18 people with allegedly taking part in an Arizona fake elector scheme to re-elect the then U.S. President Donald Trump in 2020. The court papers further list a former U.S. President Donald Trump as an indicted co-conspirator. The indictment stems from efforts to reverse Democrat Joe Biden's victory in several states in 2020, based on Republican Trump's false claims that he had been re-elected. Trump's lawyer and former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani is among those indicted. The indictment also identifies one defendant as chief of staff in 2020, the position Mark Meadows held in the Trump White House at that time. The false elector scheme figures in 2 criminal trials in Washington, D.C. and Georgia, charging Trump with unlawfully seeking to overturn Biden's victory. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken begins his 3-day visit to China. Stay with us to know why the visit matters. Nigeria braces an upsurge with the cases of malaria and malaria deaths more than anywhere else in the world. After the break, we get to how the African nation is coping up with the challenge. And more than 11,000 households displaced by floods in Kenya.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. Let's get you more international updates. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken began his 3-day China visit with Shanghai, where he held a meeting with Shanghai Communist Party Secretary Shen Jining and stressed on the importance of a responsible US-China relationship.
We have an obligation for our people and indeed an obligation for the world to manage the relationship between our two countries responsibly. The direction from President Biden and President Xi was to continue to build those lines of communication, to sustain them, and again, to deal directly with our differences as we also seek to build cooperation.
He also visited Shanghai skyline. The visit comes mere hours after the US Senate passed a bill that includes new funding for Taiwan and TikTok divestment or ban bill. Now, this is Blinken's second visit to the mainland, where he will meet with business leaders and Foreign Minister Wang Yi. He is also likely to speak with President Xi Jinping. Meanwhile, China has cautioned the US against supporting Taiwan, saying strengthening military collusion between the two will only escalate tensions and the risk of conflict in the Taiwan Strait.
Strengthening military collusion between the United States and Taiwan will not bring security to Taiwan, nor can it save Taiwan from the doomed fate of independence, but will only push up tensions and the risk of conflict and confrontation in the Taiwan Strait, and will ultimately be like lifting a rock and stoning one's own foot.
All right, Laura Westbrook joins us with more from Hong Kong. Laura, you've seen US Secretary of State Antony Blinken hold one-to-one meetings with the leaders there in China, and a lot of high-profile meetings are also expected. But better US-China ties is one thing that has been spoken of by both the sides. But there is still deep, disagreement between both the sides. To what extent can we expect this visit to iron out those disagreements and differences?
Well, the US is keen to stress that this is part of normal, resuming normal channels of communication. And when Antony Blinken visited Shanghai last night, we saw sort of the softer side of diplomacy there. He visited a steamed bun restaurant, he went to a basketball game, and he's also going to meet with business leaders, but also academics and students. And he said in a message that was posted on the social media platform X that he wants to do that to bridge, to show the bridges between Americans and Chinese people. However, he did say that he would not shy away from raising some key differences, and that face-to-face dialogue was critical for diplomacy. Now, Antony Blinken will have two key goals on his visit. The first is to get China on side when it comes to stopping Chinese companies funding Russia's war efforts in Ukraine, as well as getting China to help de-escalate the growing conflict in the Middle East. In that message, he also said that one of the things that was very important to the American people was getting China on side to help reduce the amount of fentanyl, that narcotic, heading into the US. China, for its part, has said that they want to strengthen dialogue, but they have laid down some of their red lines, which includes Taiwan, which China claims as its own, as well as the South China Sea. And a foreign ministry official said before this trip took place that the United States must realize it cannot communicate for the sake of communication, and they cannot say one thing and do another. So both sides putting forward that message that communication and dialogue is important, but China also wanting to put forward its message that it wants to be seen as being equal on the world stage with the US as well.
All right, so that was the expectations from the Chinese side, but China has also used stern words when it comes to US supporting Taiwan. Do we know more about it when we talk of the Chinese response?
Yes. just hours before Blinken landed in China, we had this massive aid package that saw billions of dollars of aid, including arms support, head to Taiwan. And that includes a package which will include enhancing and upgrading military hardware in Taiwan, as well as helping provide US technology. And it also included a provision that could see TikTok, this hugely popular social media app in America, be banned. So, Blinken is arriving on the back of these two pieces of news, and they're almost certainly going to come up in talks. We did hear a response from the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman who had some very harsh words when it came to the aid from the US to Taiwan. China obviously claims Taiwan as part of its own territory, and it said that the aid and the package, which included arms support for Taiwan, went against this one China principle and also encouraged pro-separatist forces in Taiwan. And this is also coming ahead of the new president in Taiwan, William Lai. He is set to be inaugurated as president next month as well.
All right, Laura, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. The abortion bill continues to spark a debate in the U.S. as anti-abortion protesters in Arizona state condemn lawmakers for repealing 1864 abortion ban. On their third attempt in 3 weeks, lawmakers in Arizona's House of Representatives on Wednesday voted to pass a bill that would repeal the near-total ban on abortion from 1864. The bill was upheld by state Supreme Court earlier this month. In a 32-28 vote, lawmakers decided that the old abortion ban should be repealed. The issue now moves to the state Senate, which is also expected to vote to repeal the ban on the Arizona Supreme Court, upheld earlier this month. Russia on Wednesday vetoed a US-drafted UN Security Council resolution that called on countries to prevent an arms race in outer space. The vote came after Washington accused Moscow of developing an anti-satellite nuclear weapon to put in space. Russia has denied the allegation. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Moscow was against putting nuclear weapons in space. Russia's UN ambassador Vasily Nebenzia accused Washington of trying to tarnish Moscow and said that Russia would shortly begin negotiations with the Council members on its own draft resolution aimed at keeping space peaceful. The draft resolution was put to a vote by the US and Japan after nearly 6 weeks of negotiations. It received 13 votes in favor, while China abstained and Russia cast a veto. Shots were fired near Haiti's National Palace in the capital Port-au-Prince on Wednesday ahead of the installation of the Presidential Transition Council. The ceremony is set to be hosted on Thursday at the Prime Minister's office on the outskirts of the city. The National Palace has come under repeated fire from armed gangs in recent days leading up to the ceremony. The violence has displaced food vendors who have taken to selling their products at an improvised street market. World Malaria Day is being observed today. Malaria is preventable and treatable, yet it claims hundreds of thousands of lives each year. Nigeria has more cases of malaria and malaria deaths more than anywhere else in the world. The fight against the disease in Africa's most populous country is still facing challenges. Despite programs geared towards elimination of malaria, health experts say that high-quality healthcare needs to be available to the Nigerians in order to fully address the challenge. DD India correspondent Ajay Mangut gets us more.
Fatima Abubakar lives with her family in this small community in Abuja. She says her children often get malaria due to their poor living conditions.
I have young kids, and sometimes I'll have 2 of them getting malaria at the same time in a month, or one child falling ill twice a month. And that's because we have a lot of mosquitoes here. It's not easy having to deal with that.
Malaria is a disease caused by female mosquitoes found in areas with stagnant water and an unclean environment. Children under 5 are the most vulnerable to the disease. The World Health Organization says Africa is disproportionately affected by the disease.
Health authorities in Nigeria say an estimated 55 million malaria cases and nearly 90,000 malaria deaths occur in the country every year. The World Health Organization also says the risk of transmission exists across Nigeria all year round.
For years, Nigeria, through its National Elimination Program, has been working to lessen the burden of the disease through prevention and treatment, policies and guidelines. But health experts say poor funding, insecurity and the COVID-19 pandemic has slowed progress.
It's been a tough one managing malaria in the country. It's some progress and then some regression. The program, the National Malaria Elimination Program, tries to look at control from different angles. Vector control, appropriate treatment, diagnosis and treatment, chemo prevention, and the monitoring and evaluation, as it may be. So all those have challenges. There are a lot of inequity in even reaching the real needy population for malaria. For example, the burden is more in the rural area, amongst the lower socioeconomic group, in the Sahel region, and then with all the insecurity and all those or whatnot happening in those places. So that was a delay.
Health experts argue that the government should look at guaranteeing access to quality health care, especially in rural areas. They say this will help in providing care for malaria cases and all other diseases the country is grappling with.
The system has to be such that there is access to care, especially for vulnerable and hard-to-reach places and people. People in the rural area, we must revamp our primary healthcare system, retrain our healthcare workers, so they could use the latest and recognized treatment protocols for malaria. And then we have to make healthcare access readily available for our people in the rural area.
The government says it wants to start rolling out vaccines for malaria before the end of 2024, with a target to reduce malaria prevalence by 2025. Also in April, it announced plans to improve facilities in 17,000 primary healthcare centers and establish over 8,000 new ones to improve access to quality health care. But those aims require time and significant funding. For now, Fatima is doing what she can to try and protect her children from malaria. Ajak Mangut in Abuja, reporting for DD India.
Weeks of heavy rainfall have caused severe flooding in large areas of Kenya, submerging entire neighborhoods in the capital Nairobi. The floods have caused widespread damage and displacement, with over 11,000 households affected so far. Authorities are scrambling to provide relief and assistance to those affected. The Kenya Meteorological Department has forecast heavy rains to continue, urging those living in flood-prone areas to move to higher grounds. Scientists have linked the heavy rains to a climate phenomena known as a positive Indian Ocean dipole, resulting in higher than normal temperatures in the Western Indian Ocean near East Africa. A short break ahead, but after the break, CEO of JP Morgan Chase & Company, Jamie Dimon, heaps praise on Prime Minister Modi for uplifting education system and overall infrastructure. Stay with us for a sneak peek into how political temperatures are soaring ahead of the second phase polling on Friday. IMD predicts mercury to further soar in the coming days in East and South Peninsular India.
Hype versus facts. In-depth news and analysis with experts who will help you decide why this election matters. DD India is the main election headquarters with numbers most accurate, data most reliable, and viewership across the platforms. Stay tuned to the Great Indian Election only on weekdays at 8:30 p.m. IST and 1500 hours GMT.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. CEO of JP Morgan Chase and Company, Jeremy Dimon, has lauded Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his achievements in the country. Speaking at a webinar organized by the Economic Club of New York, he highlighted Prime Minister Modi's unbelievable job in uplifting India. Praising the reforms by the current government in the recent past, he also noted that India has an unbelievable education system and unbelievable infrastructure.
Modi has done an unbelievable job in India. I mean, literally, and I know, the liberal press here, they beat the hell out of him. He's taken 400 million people out of poverty. When we go lecture Modi about, when they want trade with us, but we lecture literally, and I go to these countries soon after a lot of our government officials there. It's like we're fantasizing about, climate and labor and how we think they should be running their country. He has 400 million people without toilets. Really? And we're lecturing them how to do things? They put in this unbelievable, every citizen by hand or by eyeball or by finger is recognized. They open bank accounts for 700 million people. The transfer payments are going through. They've got an unbelievable education system, unbelievable infrastructure. They're lifting up that whole country because this one man is he's tough. But I think you have to be tough to break that down, and he's breaking down some of the bureaucracy. They have, I think it's 29 states or something like that, but they all had completely different, it's almost like Europe, they have completely different tax systems, which leads to enormous corruption. He's breaking all that stuff down. And so, yeah, there are examples of people who have just turned these things around. And we need a little bit more of that here.
And now we take a look at the largest democratic election in India. Preparations are in full swing for the second phase of Lok Sabha elections, for which voting will be held on Friday. Elections will be held in 88 Lok Sabha seats in 13 states and union territories, including the remaining part of the outer Manipur Lok Sabha constituency. Polling for the Bethol parliamentary constituency of Madhya Pradesh, which was scheduled in the second phase, will now be held in the third phase due to demise of the BSP candidate. A total of 1,198 candidates from 13 states and union territories, along with 4 candidates from outer Manipur Lok Sabha constituency, are in the fray in this phase. Campaigning for the second phase of India's general elections ended on Wednesday, while it was marked as the hottest day in campaigning when Chair of the Indian Overseas Congress, Sam Pitroda, courted controversy by advocating an inheritance tax in India. He backed the Congress party's stand on redistribution of wealth. The BJP has criticized Congress's manifesto, saying that the document smacks of appeasement and that if the Congress party comes to power, it would redistribute people's wealth and give reservation to Muslims from the quota meant for certain castes. Top leaders of major political parties made last-ditch efforts to woo the voters by holding back-to-back rallies and roadshows. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a public meeting in Ambikapur city of Chhattisgarh and at Sagar district in Madhya Pradesh on Wednesday. Senior BJP leader Amit Shah held a poll meeting at Alapua in Kerala. BJP President JP Nadda addressed a public meeting at Bhagalpur in Bihar. Grand Alliance leaders of RJD, Congress and left parties also campaigned in support of their candidates. Senior Congress leader Rahul Gandhi attended an election rally in Amravati Lok Sabha constituency of Maharashtra on Wednesday. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge spoke at a social justice conclave organized by the party in the national capital. And campaigning for the second phase of elections ended on Wednesday, while it continues for the third phase. The Bharatiya Janata Party is set to raise the pitch of the 2024 Lok Sabha poll battle, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 32 rallies and roadshows across 10 states in the next 10 days. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address 4 rallies on Thursday, starting from Morena Lok Sabha, which is a bastion of the BJP in Madhya Pradesh. It will go to polls in the third phase on May 7th. Prime Minister will address election rallies in Agra, Aunla and Shahjahanpur Lok Sabha seats of Uttar Pradesh. Senior BJP leader Rajnath Singh will also hold public meetings in Etawah and Khiri in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Senior BJP leader Amit Shah will also hold a public meeting in Medak Lok Sabha constituency in the southern state of Telangana. He will also hold a public meeting in Bolangir Lok Sabha constituency in the coastal state of Odisha. Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy will file his nomination from the Pulivendula Assembly constituency. Samajwadi Party leader Akhilesh Yadav will also file his nomination from the state of Uttar Pradesh. Security measures have been pressed into service with police checking vehicles even on the highways. DD India's Vishal Baristo brings us this report from the city of Kota in the western state of Rajasthan.
Kilometers from the Kota constituency on the national highway, here is the police checking going on because 26th is the second round of elections in Rajasthan and police checking is going on 24/7. Let's talk to them and find out what are they looking at. क्या चेक कर रहे हैं आप?
जी हम ज़्यादा तो कैश के लिए वो है और इसके अलावा कोई उपहार की वस्तुएं जो मतलब कोई कैंडिडेट अगर उसमें मतदान में बांट रहा है वो चीज़ें और कोई अवैध सामग्री है उनको इसके पास हथियार वगैरह ये सब सारी चेकिंग कर रहे हैं।
कैश कितने तक क्या लिमिट है?
कैश 50,000 से ज़्यादा अगर कोई संतोषजनक जवाब नहीं देता है और वो मतलब उसको कहाँ से पैसे लेके आ रहा है वो अगर जवाब नहीं दे पा रहा है तो फिर उसको हम जब्त करके जिला समिति बनाई हुई है वहाँ भिजवा देते हैं। वहाँ अगर वो डॉक्यूमेंट्स पेश कर देता है तो वहाँ से उसकी कैश राशि रिलीज कर दी जाती है अगले दिन।
6,45,000 have been confiscated and there you can see this man is also video recording and it would be produced in the collectorate. Police and administration are not taking any chances because they want there should be free and fair election. With cameraman Ramakant on the national highway of Kota, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
All right, now we will have inputs coming in from our correspondents who will be getting us a sense of the poll pulse across the country. We are joined in by Mark Lin. He's joining us from Darjeeling, West Bengal. Vishal Baristo is joining us from Kota, Rajasthan. And Dibyendu Mondal is at Katihar, Bihar. Thank you so much, all of you. Good morning for joining us on DD India News Hour. Mark, first I will come to you. When we talk of the contest, then 3 seats going to polls in North Bengal are currently with the BJP. And also in the second phase, voters will be sealing the fate of BJP State President Sukanta Majumdar and Darjeeling MP Raju Bista. Help us understand the poll contest better.
Yes, indeed, Preeti. The 3 seats, as you mentioned, are currently with the BJP. But today is the date of silence, and the voters are, contemplating who they should be voting for, the issues that are on their minds. And currently, all I can tell you is that the polling preparations are on in full swing. The poll personnel are moving out to all the 1,999 polling stations spread across the Darjeeling district, which consists of Kalimpong, Kurseong, Darjeeling, Siliguri, and Chapra. These are the different regions under which polling will take place. Many of the people who work here in Darjeeling are also going back to their respective places so that they can vote, and a high voter turnout is expected for the polling. Now, you did talk about the contest, and there is a keen contest in Raiganj between the BJP and the Trinamool Congress. In Darjeeling as well as in Balurghat, the BJP candidate is the sitting MP who is contesting once again. It is, you did mention their names. It is believed that the BJP has a little bit of an advantage in these seats because these two candidates are seen to have done the will of the people. But one never says, one can't really call an election until the final vote is cast. And all I can say is that I've been to all the 3 districts and the constituencies, and campaigning has been very intense over the last few days. Every particular party, there's basically a large contest between the BJP as well as the Trinamool Congress, and both parties have done their very best to reach out to the voters. Preeti.
All right, Mark, from here we turn focus to Rajasthan. Vishal is there in Kota. Vishal, when we talk of the Kota Lok Sabha constituency, it comprises of 2 assembly segments and also of 2 assembly segments of the neighbouring Bundi district as well. And also Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla will be facing contest here, and it will be a crucial day tomorrow for him. Let us get more from you about the permutations, combinations, about the key prospects of the parties as they will be witnessing the second phase of polling tomorrow.
Well, absolutely. A very good morning to you, Preeti. Now from the cool and comfortable place like Darjeeling, now the focus is on Rajasthan, which is very hot in summers. It is the largest state of the country area-wise, and I am in Kota, which is on the banks of Chambal River, tributary.
All right, I think there has been a disruption in the connectivity there. We'll try getting back again to Vishal at this point. All right, Vishal, yes, you're there with us?
Yeah, I'm still there with you.
Yes, please
continue. Can you hear me?
Yes, please continue.
I was explaining the constituency of Kota. Kota has seen Om Birla twice. He has been winning candidate in 2014 and 2019. And Om Birla is trying his luck for the 3rd time. But this time he is facing the heat from his former colleague Prahlad Gunjal. Prahlad Gunjal was in BJP. He contested the assembly elections on the ticket of BJP, lost to Shanti Dhariwal, and now he is in Congress and he is against his former colleague Om Birla. So it is an interesting contest. The first round has not been very encouraging for the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party in Rajasthan, who has won these assembly elections in 2023 last year, because only 55% people came out to vote. It is an interesting contest here in Kota, and 13 seats would be going for the second round of elections. That would be tomorrow. Total, there are 25 seats, and BJP is looking to grab all the 25 seats. In 2019, BJP had won 24 out of 25 in Rajasthan. Preeti?
All right, from here we'll go across to our correspondent Dibyendu Mondal. But Mark, thank you so much for joining in with your inputs from Darjeeling. And in just a while from now, we will also have Deepika Mathur join us from Tripura. But at present, I'll go across to Dibyendu Mondal, who's joining us from Bihar. Dibyendu, good morning. When we talk of Bihar, then in Bihar, Katihar and Kishanganj are 2 Lok Sabha seats in Simanchal with a sizable minority population. And there are 6 assembly segments in Katihar in which Congress and BJP have won 2 each. And also JDU and CPI-ML have won 1 seat each. Can we get more from you as to how do you see the poll contest poised in Katihar?
Well, good morning, Preeti. Indeed, you were absolutely right when you said that these constituencies in this part of the Simanchal region of Bihar has a sizable minority population. If we talk of the Kishanganj seat, remember this was the only seat in 2019 that was won by the Congress. The same candidate, in fact, the sitting Congress MP is once again seeking a re-election from this particular constituency in Kishanganj. It has about 70% of minority population in Kishanganj. Whereas the other 2 constituencies, as you mentioned, Katihar as well as Purnia, has over 35 to 40% of the minority population, as well as, the caste combinations here play a significant role, especially when it comes to the politics of Bihar. So, of course, the political parties who have put in their candidates have kept that in mind. And interestingly, Preeti, the Purnia constituency, which in the erstwhile, which is in 2019 election, saw a 2-corner fight, is witnessing a 3-corner fight this time with the entry of Pappu Yadav. An erstwhile dreaded criminal has turned into a Robin Hood in Purnia and is garnering massive support from the people. We were there yesterday and day before yesterday in Purnia, and people say that the image of Pappu Yadav, who has turned into a Robin Hood, is gaining immense popularity amongst the youth. and the people of Purnia, and he is going to give a tough contest to both the JDU candidate as well as the RJD candidate in Purnia. Yadavs as well as Muslim constitutes in Purnia at about 50% of the vote bank. So, of course, that seat is a hot seat in Bihar, which will be keenly observed by many of the political observers across the country. Apart from that, the Katihar Lok Sabha constituency had been a bastion of the Congress's Tariq Anwar, who had been winning from here for a very long time. But over the last 2 decades, 1.5 decade, in fact, the BJP had been able to breach that bastion of the Congress here. But this time around, Tariq Anwar seems very confident of the fact that he could win from this constituency. And of course, the contest, as Mark was earlier saying, we cannot really predict an election until the last ballot is counted. So of course, we'll have to wait and watch as to who the people had elected. Of course, we are just less than 24 hours from the time of polling. And of course, we'll have to wait till the 4th of June to see who has been able to reach to the hearts of the people from these 5 seats in Bihar. Back to you, Preeti.
All right. So we'll have to wait and watch and to see, in fact, how permutations and combinations work out in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. Thank you so much, Dibendu and Vishal, for joining in from Bihar and Rajasthan, respectively. And from here, we now turn focus to Bihar poll preparations. Hours before the campaigning for the second phase came to a close on Wednesday. Yes, political parties put in their full might to woo the voters for the one last time. We'll get you more on that from Bihar, but at present, I'll turn focus to Tripura East. Deepika Mahato is joining us to get us more on the poll preparations and the poll contest, basically the poll for in East Tripura. Deepika, good morning. You're joining us from East Tripura. When we talk of East Tripura, then this is the one of the only 2 Lok Sabha constituencies and also of Manipur. And when we talk of this particular East Tripura seat, then this is specially designated for the scheduled tribes. Let us understand more from you as to how do you see the poll contest poised, what are the expectations of the people, and it is crucial because we will see the second phase polling tomorrow.
Indeed, Preeti, a very good morning from Tripura. We are here in Tripura where the pollings will going to happen on the 26th, which is tomorrow. We are just 24 hours away. The fight is straight away between the BJP and the CPIM. If you talk about the West constituency, that has already gone into the polls. It recorded more than 80% of voter turnout. And yesterday we were talking to the leaders of both the parties, the BJP and the CPIM, and we asked that amid the scorching heat and the sun above the head of the voters, how are they going to go and call the voters on the polling stations, on the polling booths? And they said that they've been extensively campaigning into the mountains, onto the hills, and they are also making preparations. They have also talked to the SDMs to make sufficient arrangements for the voters at the polling stations, providing them water and also providing them with glucose so that voters can come. Not only this, we also had a word with the Tripura East voters on how they are going to beat the heat when we talk about the voting turnout, because Tripura East is also expecting a similar sort of higher voting turnout. So the voters said that they will preferably go in the first half of the morning and go and vote for their respective parties which they are looking at. Now the issues, if we talk about, they are looking at development, but as you said that this is a ST seat meant for scheduled tribes, and 30% of Tripura is meant for scheduled people, scheduled caste people, for the indigenous people. Therefore, it is a very imperative when we look at this seat from the point of view of the rights of indigenous people, the script, the history, the language and the security that they are looking forward to. So with all the promises, the parties will now ultimately going into the polls tomorrow. The enthusiasm of the voter is indeed very upbeat despite of the weather, because they say weather would keep on changing. It is a changing phenomena, but parliamentary elections would come only once in 4 years. Preeti,
all right, so the weather is a changing phenomena.
The voters are gearing up ahead of the schedule for tomorrow, Preeti.
So the weather is facing changes there. We'll have to see if the heart of the voters also changed this time around. Thank you so much, Deepika, for joining in with those details. And as we told you hours before the campaigning for the second phase came to a close on Wednesday evening, political parties put in their full might to woo the voters for the one last time. The city of Bhagalpur in Bihar also witnessed intense canvassing throughout the day. Let's take a look at this report by our correspondent Dibendu Mondal from the Lok Sabha constituency of Bhagalpur.
Set on the banks of the river Ganges, the city of Bhagalpur, known for its fine silk, is witnessing a two-corner fight this elections of 2024. The NDA Alliance's JDU candidate Ajay Mandal will face the India Alliance's Ajit Sharma. This seat of Bihar is also expected to witness a tough contest and is likely to go down to the wire. On the last day of campaigning on Wednesday, BJP National President JP Nadda campaigned here along with the JDU candidate Ajay Mandal amidst loud cheers from the people. While on the other hand, the Congress candidate Ajit Sharma held a roadshow in the city of Bhagalpur along with his daughter Neha Sharma, a renowned Bollywood actor. Bhagalpur, which has a large number of youths in its voter list owing to the colleges here, say that they would like to vote for a leader who is strong.
First of all, since it's a Lok Sabha election, I'm surely going to vote for somebody who is going to take our country to a better place.
First-time voters also look for a stable government at the centre.
I think most of the people in Bihar want a new face, right? They are fed up of them. They keep changing parties. There's a massive amount of horse trading going on. Everybody know that.
The Lok Sabha constituency of Bhagalpur had been a Congress stronghold for a very long time. But this Congress bastion was breached in 2014 by the Modi juggernaut. Ajay Mandal, who was earlier with the BJP, is now contesting on a JDU ticket and is seeking a re-election this time. Curtains are down and the political campaigning for the second phase of elections are over. The next 24 hours, it is the people of the 5 constituencies of Bihar that will deliberate on who their candidate would go to the parliament. With camera person Jagmohan, this is Dibyendu model from Bhagalpur in Bihar for DD India.
Today is the last day for filing of nomination papers for the 4th phase. Till Wednesday, 19 candidates submitted 21 nomination papers. Also, 83 nomination papers have been filed by 58 candidates so far. The nomination papers will be scrutinized on Friday, which is April 26. Candidates who have filed nomination papers will be able to withdraw their names till Monday, April 29th. Voting for the 4th phase will take place on Monday, May 13th, while the counting of votes in all phases will take place on Tuesday, June 4th. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on your screens to download now. And also, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.
क्या बात है, बहुत फिट लग रहा है। 3 महीने में पैसे डबल।
वाह, फास्ट और हाई रिटर्न्स भी।